So we go back to Ole Miss. So the Ole Miss football team is flying home from Arizona after suffering a very, soul-crushing loss. And the news breaks that Trinidad Chambliss has been denied his request for another year of eligibility, which we expected because he was asking basically just, hey, give me one more year. I'd like another year, because he had a redshirt year at Ferris State. He then played 3 years at Ferris State. He then played 1 year at Ole Miss. That's the standard amount. But this is 2026 in college football. Ross, Trinidad Chambliss is not done fighting.
No, not at all. It was maybe a month ago or 3 weeks ago or so, he got connected to Tom Mars. How he got connected to Tom Mars is an interesting story. The LSU football coach, Mr. Lane Kiffin, called Tom Mars to encourage him to represent another Trinidad Chambliss, a quarterback at another school. So that happened.
Ross, wait, that's so altruistic of Lane Kiffin. I can't believe he did that. What a kind gesture.
Yes. So Tom Mars, as we all know, fights with the NCAA quite a bit and has a lot of success. And I would guess that Andy, as you note in his statement, I know he will be filing some kind of lawsuit to get that 6 year back with the circuit court in probably the state of Mississippi. And they have real damages, right? He signed. And part of the reason probably he signed earlier this week.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think the signing of the contract and the timing of him agreeing to a contract with Ole Miss was intentional. They wanted it to happen before the NCAA ruling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And those are more than 5 million reasons to get a judge to grant this. So
Tom Mars is like Tom Mars is like the sign of health for an industry. And I've spoken with Tom, so it's going to sound a particular way, but the more Tom Mars shows up, probably the less healthy your industry is. I find it funny that he's come full circle because he sort of exploded on the national scene in the Houston Nutt Ole Miss saga. And do you remember Shea Patterson, the quarterback that was going to go to Michigan after the sanctions? Right. And so he kind of battered Ole Miss initially. Then he went to work for the NCAA for a while. Then he was just sort of the at-large hire for these type of issues. Basically, the more you see Tom Mars, the less healthy the NCAA in college football is as a sport. That's not a knock on him, but the ability to come through and jump sides like this means that there's an intense amount of gray area in the legislature here. And I was not shocked, by the way, about the Chambliss ruling at all.
No, I wasn't shocked either. Now, the Mars strategy in this case, as he pointed out in his statement, the key word is Mississippi judiciary. He wants this in state court. He does not want this in federal court, which is interesting because everybody else who sued the NCAA has sued them in federal court on antitrust grounds, which in cases involving how much you can pay athletes, the NCAA has lost every one. But in eligibility cases, as Ross Dellinger has pointed out multiple times on this show, the NCAA is batting about 500 and maybe even a little more than that. The judges have been pretty sympathetic to the idea of having non-infinite eligibility in college sports.
Hey, Andy, guess where they're not, guess where they won't bat 500?
There you go.
In the state courts of Mississippi, baby.
Right, and that is why that if this lawsuit gets filed, which I assume it will, there will not be any antitrust claims because that could get the case removed to federal court. There will be nothing in it that could possibly get the case removed to federal court. It will be in state court, and it'll be intentional interference with a valid contract. A very simple legal concept, like a first few weeks of law school kind of situation. And what they want, what you're trying to do in this case, is you want the preliminary injunction. You want the judge to say, we think you might prevail on the merits of your case. Therefore, we will, I think the legal term is enjoin the NCAA from enforcing its eligibility rules on you while this particular case is being adjudicated. That they don't have to finish off the case. They just need to run out the clock.
Yes. There are a lot of bored and excited lawyers in the state of Mississippi who might hold a particular affiliation for the university in question, who are also, let's just say they hold in recent memory the NCAA's last punitive action against Ole Miss, which rather than punish Hugh Freeze, punished the university and the players. And so there's a fresh amount of zeal in the legal community of the Magnolia State, and I see Ross nodding because he's familiar with these individuals. They would love to put one on the board against the NCAA. These two institutions don't like each other at all. The University of Mississippi and the NCAA.
They have to be quick here. One of the Trinidad's agent told me last week about the situation they're in. Because look, I mean, he could get drafted right in the the draft. I think he's got maybe a late as high as like a late second round sort of grade. If the worst, a third round selection, and so they need to figure out. They're going to get this injunction granted before he maybe starts full time in the spring semester. He might just have to start, school because this thing could drag out. But I would guess next week at some point. Tom Mars, and then we'll file this. But yeah, this was anything but surprising. The ruling. The NCAA had already told Ole Miss, I think early mid-December, that they didn't provide enough medical documentation for this situation. And I think as recently as a couple weeks ago, the NCAA was trying to get more documentation from Ferris State, and there wasn't anything else, to be had.
Right.
And,
they were saying something
so
about
were left
enlarged
with,
tonsils in 2022.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter was he was on the bench in 2022. They didn't play him in any games in 2022. It wasn't really because of an injury situation. It was because that's where he was on the depth chart. So that's the situation. And it's very similar to the Zakai Ziegler case. Zakai Ziegler was the Tennessee point guard who played 4 years in 4 at Tennessee. He's like, I would like to play another year in college. And then he sued, and that was in federal court. And the judge's like, nah, no, you can't do that.
And Andy, and that's a good point about the federal state court, because in federal court, I believe the latest numbers, it's around, just to give a round figure of 40 eligibility lawsuits filed for athletes trying to get an extra year or years of eligibility. In the NCAA, as far as the preliminary rulings, have won 25-ish of the 40. Yeah. So they're winning a decent amount of these. But this
Diego
one, as
Pavia,
you mentioned,
won for a very specific reason. Diego Pavia won an extra year because the NCAA was treating people who were in JUCO in 2020 differently than they treated people who were at NCAA schools in 2020. So there was a very clear reason for the court to say, well, why don't you just treat these people the same? There's no clear reason with the other cases. It's just people saying, I would like another year because I can make some more money doing this. And
it feels like if he keeps it in Mississippi, if he keeps it in state court, he's got probably a puncher's chance here. Otherwise, if they can drag this out, which is probably going to be their best strategy, then it doesn't feel like it's going to happen. This is also compounded by, I don't know if this is a sign of Ole Miss's confidence in Mars. Again, weird statement. But you see that they're in the race for DJ Lagway now.
That is a case of DJ Lagway was maybe going to Baylor and maybe would like a little higher profile situation. And so Deuce Knight, the former blue chip recruit out of Mississippi who was initially going to sign with Notre Dame, he flips to Auburn before signing day. He spends his freshman year at Auburn. He's in the portal now. He's visiting Ole Miss right now. The way I see it from talking to people is that Deuce Knight is the insurance policy in case Trinidad can't play. Deuce Knight they would view as a more developmental pick. They would love to have Trinidad one more year and then have Deuce behind him. DJ, I think what his people are positioning is, hey, if Trinidad can't come back, you may want to just have a person like DJ who you can play right away. So we'll see. The market for DJ Lagway has not been as robust as I think the
DJ
folks
Lagway thought
around him thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So,
but this puts Ole Miss at just such a tough position, right? You're the portal is closing in 5 days, 6 days, and you don't know if your quarterback, who might be right? He's probably going to be a top 3 Heisman sort of favorite going into next year, is eligible or not. It's a tough spot. I was talking to some of the Ole Miss recruiting guys at the game in Phoenix, and they were talking about how this was the night of the game, and they were on the field pregame, and they were talking about how when they get home from the game, recruits are going to be waiting for them when they get there for visits. And that's, again, part of the calendar stuff that I think on the last pod we discussed needs to be changed.
Yep. Look, Ole Miss wouldn't be Ole Miss right now if there wasn't something that was completely national headline grabbing and incredibly adversarial that no one's experienced before. That's been like the motto of the program for the last, 50 days.
Absolutely.